Thank you. So today I wanted to share with you my experience with how we are using Backstage to create developer portal. So I know most of the you probably already heard about Backstage, but if you're not, so Backstage is an open source platform for asset and IT and all those other tools and configurations and resources that as a developer we use every day. Not only developer, cloud operations, DevOps operations, we all use a lot of asset every day, and this packages provide a very easy and quick way to categorize them or put it into like a catalog. It's provided kind of portal, and it's very easy and quick to build it. It's been a long time that Backestas is on the market, but Spotify make it open source, so now anybody and everybody can use it to create their own developer portal. So that's a bit of things. So the main problems as a developer, as a IT architect that we face in our everyday, let's say I have a team. I've just formed up a team because I have a new project, and some of my team members are very expert, some of them are maybe new to the work and all that. But I ask somebody to deploy a resource on the cloud, and this cloud could be any of the cloud, IBM, AWS, Azure, I don't care. But then the main problem comes, this person need to know certain tools, certain code pattern, needs to follow a lot of different structures, but there is nothing to guide. Maybe some organization has a documentation portal and this team member can go there and get something. Or sometimes it's mainly because my team members are very nice, they will sit down with me and help me to some extent, but it's a very cumbersome process. And if I want to create something of my own, I need to go through a lot of different steps before I can finally deploy it. So obviously it's very time consuming, very expensive, and very it's not possible to increase the productivity. On the other hand, maybe somebody in some corner of my organization has built the same thing and it's just sitting on his laptop or her laptop and nobody knows about it, right? So the sharing among the different teams or different part of the organizations, a lot of organizations are taking a lot of steps to so that everybody can share their resources that they're creating or create a kind of a general repository. But these are remaining became a GitHub repository that nobody haven't heard about, but there is a link in the Slack channel somewhere. I need to find out. Like, we need a one stop for all these different things, so that as a developer or as an operation engineer, I will just go to that one single point and I will find something. It should come out like a we're shopping on AWS or any other mart. That's how we should be working on, right? So that this is one of the biggest problem at this moment in any organization, especially organization where multiple discipline, and that is the story for any companies at this stage, starting from a startup to multi national organizations. It's very difficult to manage all these assets. So the solution to all this is that a lot of people all over the organizations, everybody is creating assets. Those are high quality, that are going through some peer review or some organizational standard and practices, and they are all going to be accessible through an web portal, which is possible to authenticate, create different identity and access management. So if I want to use one particular team that asset and not to expose, because sometimes due to security reason, maybe we don't want to expose some of the asset to the entire organization, or that something maybe only NDA certified and only few member of the team need to access them. So it's also important that this is not open for everybody in the organization, but at least we know who has access and who not. So it's a web portal managed with identity and access control, and we will go to the web portal, choose certain of the asset or templates that we want to use, and it will be connected through some CI/CD pipeline, and we will be clicking on some of the buttons or just making very minimal configuration change, and all of a sudden that application or the cloud resource that I want to deploy on a particular cloud or any environment, it could just go smoothly and deployed on that platform. So that would be a desired way of working now these days among developers, operations, any teams. It would be most desired way, where ChatGPT can give us 5 steps to deploy a Kubernetes cluster on any of the cloud. I don't want to waste my time to start a Terraform script from the beginning and then deploy it on the platform, right? I want to get in a standard what is already available and then make my customizations and move on to my next work, which may be more interesting than just creating a Terraform script, right? So with that thought, we need a developer portal. This developer portal will be our single entry point for all the different assets and resources that we need to manage. It will act like a catalog. Now, not only for developer, but it also will cover all the different operation team. So we can use our tools, unify them, and different services and APIs. Maybe one team develop an API and it can publish that for the users of all other different, like the Meetup API or if some a minute ago you showed that Philip showed us something, Philip will publish that into a catalog and everybody will be able to use that from their end. So that's how we want to work. We want to ensure standard and best practices. So when there is a process around your work and your configurations and your templates, and it's going through the single point and going to the same catalog, it is easy to enforce a standard and best practices, other than everybody is sitting on their own laptop and doing the work, right? And it's also will reduce a lot of duplications. If somebody in my team or some other team created something, I should not be wasting time on doing the same thing again. I should be either trying to optimize that or improve that, but that should be our way of working. So that's why developer portal is very important, and all the organization already have realized that they need an unified. You probably have heard about inner source, where this same concept is ongoing, that you create something where you can share all the different resources, maybe inside your organization and also publicly. So this is what a Backstage can provide you. So it will give you this portal, which is your number one. You go there, you say there is a lot of API library, there's a Spring library, Python library. These are all provided there, and you will just click on them and create those different services, and it will be deployed to your GitHub repository where you want it to be. And then also the documentation will be up and running. So you have a new service, new API, all the starter kit tool and code into your GitHub repository. Your documentation is up and running, so your team members or whoever else need to use that or integrate that to front end, they would know, they would just go to that documentation and get that. And at the same time, it's connected it to your CI/CD pipeline and monitor the performance, so you can sense that if it is working in the right quality and others. Should be a way of doing work, and once we do it, we are just going to replicate it again and again and again. We don't need to create this Python library from the scratch every time we go there, right? So that's the whole concept. And Backstage is, as you can see, it's a very smooth UI, and front end and back end, both of the things are integrated. And I'm going to show you how quickly you can spin off this application. So that's the whole idea of how Backstage is can give you a integrated developer portal that you can use for your end-to-end application deployment, resource deployment, API management, and all other activities. Those are very crucial for any development teams. So a little bit of how it looks like. As you can see, like there is a lot of different customization and lot of different template and other things you can do. The underlying technology for this is Node.js and React.js. So it's not very difficult to customize things or create your own plugins and publish them. There's hundreds of plugins already available from Backstage and all other different open source communities. And you can definitely integrate them to your application to make it more resourceful. So I think at this moment, we all kind of realize what is Backstage and why we need that. We need it to create at a speed. I don't want to duplicate the things that somebody already have done. I just want to use it for my own uses. So configure it or customize this, make it optimized, and then create that component. I want to manage it at a scale. So if I have one team in my company, I should not be bothered if I have 10 team tomorrow in my company doing the work. So they should be all integrated, and I can manage all the assets and configurations with this growth. And also it helps us to explore, like maybe some team in one part of the organization is thinking of an algorithm, but somebody else has developed in a better way, right? So it will help you explore as well, and at the same time maintaining the standard. So that's the benefits of having this Backstage. So now at this stage, I will move to a little bit of coding. So we will try to see how we can set up a Backstage application, and then we're gonna configure a little bit and see how the documentations and other configuration work. Now, at any moment, if I'm going over the time, Vicky, please give me a shout. Okay, so I'm gonna start open my I think it is visible. So this is my command line, and I'm gonna just type a command here. So at this moment, my machine already have Node.js installed. It is 16, the version of the Node.js. So if you are creating today your Backstage application from the scratch and you're not getting it from any other GitHub repository, you would need either 16 or 18. But if you it forking from any existing Backstage started crate, you can also use 14 or any other lower version. But as of today, you need to use either 16 or 18. So okay. This is a very simple command that I'm gonna hit enter to create my application. At this stage, it's gonna ask for a name for application, and it will start all these configurations and everything at this moment. So it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes. While it's doing that, let me take you guys to the code. So at this stage, it's going to create all these folders and configuration file, each of them. I haven't touched any one of them here. So they will be all created. Now, if you can see inside the package folder, I'm going to have two folder. One is the app folder and another one is the backend. So app contains all the front-end source code, and the backends contain all the backend source code. So if you go inside the source, this is the first app homepage and everything, and you can see that all the routing, all the search page, and all these front-end page, these are already being just routed to my application page, and I have all the navigations and everything's already set up. If you go to the backend, this is my backend, and you see that multiple plugins are included here. I have a catalog plugin. I'll describe what the use of this one. I also have a search plugin and a technical document plugin. And there is hundreds of plugins available there. You can add a plugin by running a simple command line, and they will be added in this applications as well. Now, the most important file at this moment when you are configuring is your app.config.yaml file. So if you can see your app.yaml.config file, it will have your front-end URL. So this is your front-end URL, and it will also run up your backend application in a separate port. So this is your backend applications, and it will set up the course settings, like, so it will know that if the backend is getting um, entry from this particular URL, it should allow it for this following method. So that would be already enabled. Now for the database, Backstage support two different database. It support SQLite and Postgres. So I don't have any Postgres installed in my machine at this moment. So the default one is SQLite. So it's gonna just spin off a memory database, and it will store all the data into that particular database. Then you can integrate it with your GitHub repository. Here, as you can see, I have given the hostess, and this is my personal access token. The reason I need this integration, because I want to create a Node.js application from the template and a repository to my GitHub account. So that is going to, for that, you need to do that integrations. For the documentation, what it does is Backstage run up a Docker container, and you only need to keep your Docker machine up and running, and it will just deploy the documentations. Those are in some of the file which I will describe you later. If you want to set up a sign-in page, at this moment I don't have a sign-in page, but you can configure that sign-in page. It could be a GitHub uh, OAuth client account, it could be a GCP or Google or anything you can use as your sign-in page. Now then, this important thing is, here comes your catalog. So you need all your different component, your systems or your APIs or different resources that you want on your catalog. This could be all included here. Now, this catalog component can come from either from an YAML file directly. So see, in my example folder, I have already, there are some files already been created. For example, I have these entities YAML where I have a system defined, I have a component defined, I have an API defined, and all the different definitions of the API, who is the owner of this API, all those different kind of informations are in the YAML file. So these, when I run this application, what it's gonna do, it's gonna just take all those YAML file and will convert it into a database, either SQLite or the Postgres database, and it will store them in that corresponding database. Similarly, I will also have a template. At this moment, I have two templates. One is creating a Node.js application. So it has all the different steps, and you don't need to write this. This will be automatically generated for you. Now, if you need a template for a Terraform module, or if you need something for other purposes like a Python library and all that, those are all available online, and you can also write. These are very straightforward. Like, first you need to face it from a particular GitHub repository, then you need to register the component. These steps are very straightforward. It's nothing rocket science here. You can also add your organization hierarchy. So see, in this organization hierarchy, I have one user called guest and one user called team. You can reconfigure it in a very vast way. I will take you through that later on. And here I have added some data from a GitHub repository from Backstage, just to show you guys how it actually look when you have much data on the platform. So let me take you to the, I have the application up and running. So this will, the application will look when it comes that on the platform. So you can see that this has groups, location, resources, systems, and component. So if I go to the groups, you can see I have multiple teams here. Now, if I click on the team A, you can see that they have 4 services at this moment owned, for 3 open API services, 1 website component, and 1 system. And these are some of the people from the team of team A. Now, these whole things you have configured in a simple YAML file, and that YAML file have a object called of type group. So this is your team A group, and then multiple object of type user. Now, Brennan is a user for team A, so that's why you mentioned the member of team A. You put the user profile, you also put an avatar for the profile picture. And by just doing this couple of lines, now you can see that team A has the person, name, email address, and avatar. So these are all integrated here. Similarly, you can also see some of the APIs and how they are there. So this is an API that you have, and it has which team owns it, what is the API called, and how to use it for which component, and all those things. So this will be creating a pet store component. So you can also see the sources of the UML. So all these different APIs are described here. What are the different definition? What should be the option or value? So these are all very much YAML filelation. You don't need to really write codes and other things for this, and it will automatically create the documentations and all those things for this. You can understand what is the team. I personally like this one much because it gives a clear relationship mapping, like how you can do that. You can also see it as like a view, like exactly where in your asset management it exists. So it is very small, but you get the idea. So similarly, let me show you how I can create a template. So I showed you that I have a template of nodejs application. You can see that here I have a template for nodejs application, and I want to create it in my uh, GitHub repository. So it's owned by user guest. I select choose, and then all I have to do is give it a name. The next step is this is always github.com because that's how I configured in my app configure. Now I'm going to give my GitHub username, and I'm going to give a portal, repository name for this. The next step is to hit the create button. So it will face those things. Now, two things will happen. If I click on this repository, you can see that it's taking me to my GitHub page, and I already have that. I have that index.js that is already created. I have the package.json for this. Like, it's a very small template, but I have all those functions already created for me. So I don't need to go and create it by myself. Imagine I have to go to my GitHub repo, create this repository, write all those three files and update them and commit them. So all these things I have done in less than 1 minute. And then this will also appear in my catalog. So if I open in my catalog, it will give us, okay, you have a new component now, user guest has created this one, and the source code is here, and all the different informations regarding this. I can also configure my CI/CD pipeline into this. I can configure an API, what should be connected to this component. I can add all different dependencies, and I can also publish the document for this one. So this is like how quickly you can configure the templates, you can create a new component, you can set up your repository, you can also manage your document, your user access and other permission as well. So I'm gonna change my, I hope it works. So the next thing that I wanted to show you guys is a bit of how to set up the documentations and others, right? So if I go to the docs, you can see that this one documentation is appearing here. And you see in my folder, I have a specific component. Now this component I have defined here. So you can see that this is a component type. It has a name, title, a small description, a logo, and also the name of its parent component. I have this folder. It is so Backstage is not all very intelligent. So you need to make this docs YAML file at the same place. The reason we need it in the same place, because here I have mentioned that it is in the same directory. So it will look for this mkdocs file in the same directory. If I would give it a separate path or any different areas, it would go and look for this YAML file in that place. But for this documentation, I just make, okay, you look for the documentation reference in the same directory. So it's going to look for this file. So if I open this file saying that I have a site name and description, you can put it as a variable and others. And you can also make sure which file you are trying to go. So you can have multiple navigation. So I just put one navigation at this moment and give it a file name. If you had multiple other navigation in your documentation, you would just need to put them as a list here in your YAML file. And then this is important, you have your docs folder. So it's going to look for all these MD file inside your docs folder in the same directory. And inside my docs folder, I have a index MD. And this is a simple documentations, nothing very fancy. It has some of the information. So it is mainly all the information that we need when a backup and recovery service is required, what should be there, what should be our RTO, RPO. So all the different information for the platform operation team and how they should operate on that one. So with that, if I go to my docs, I can see that, yes, I have a documentations here, and I go these places, pardon this parameter name because I didn't get a chance to fix them. But so this is like a built-in template. I didn't need to do any UI or anything. It just automatically appear with this. I could just split it into multiple navigation and create two separate file as well. But for me, it works. It's not too much of content. It gives all the different tables and contents and other things as well. So, and all these things are very easily and quickly done. So for my next one, I'm going to just create another index file and put it all the content into that file, and then create a simple YAML file for the definition of the component, and I'm done. I don't need to go on and all those things. So one important thing is that I also needed to add that service in my app config file. So you can see here I added, okay, so there I have one component which is in this particular YAML file. As long as I put all the links and resources, and that could be either a GitHub link or like a simple file in my repository, I'm okay. So it will appear on my portal. But if those files are not mentioned here in this app config file, they will not be imported into the database, and it will not be shown there. So that's more or less this application. It has both its front end and back end together. Now you can customize the theme. Some of my team members does not like this teal color, so we change it to a different colors than others. And you can also separate the front end and back end totally, because in some organizations probably they have a complete separate design pattern and they want their every portal to look like the exactly same. So in those cases, you can just untangle the front end and back end, and you can deploy them separately. So that is also possible. I have published one of a blog here, how you can publish your Backstage application to a Red Hat OpenShift, to all the different steps that you need to do to go through and untangle them, and then just deploy it into a Postgres application, a Postgres database. So those details you will find here. So that is more or less my talk, like how you can quickly set up a developer portal and kind of create all your assets and your configurations in one place. So with that, I want to thank you, but I want to go back to my presentation a bit. So that's saying the next is, as Vicky already mentioned about my book, I really wanted to share my expertise and experience and what I felt when I was just learning cloud operation and infrastructure. There is a lot of asset available, but it is written for a particular specific cloud, either an AWS pattern or a Google pattern or an IBM cloud pattern. But the fundamental key of learning cloud or infrastructure operation is understanding the concept. If we understand the concept, like what is our goal and why we are doing this particular operation, what is the agenda here and what we want to achieve, I think that will make this whole learning the cloud much more faster and very easy. Because if I know the concept, then all the clouds are actually following the same concept. They are just doing it in a bit different way probably. But if I understand the concept, it's not gonna take any time to understand all the cloud and who are doing different certification. It's gonna be much more faster for them to grasp the understanding of different cloud. So with that thought, this is a book. I think we're gonna do a raffle for that. But that is all from me, Vicky. I'm gonna hand it over to you.